Thank you for being here today, Hoda. It's a pleasure to get a chance to speak with you. Uh, it's been a long time since we've had a chance to sit down and kind of catch up on your journey. But for those of our listeners who don't know, Hoda here was actually one of our original in-stage models who helped us show people how to use our virtual reality headsets and make sure that they got set up properly when we first brought in stage to Seneca College at the time and now Seneca Polytechnic. So you've been part of the in stage journey for a long time, Hoda, and thank you for making some time to speak with me today.
Thank you so much, Arman. I am so delighted to see your journey and see your growth and see what you've done with InStage. It's really an honor for me to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. And what I always like to start with in these episodes is, um, a chance to learn a bit about your journey and what you've been able to do along the way that has gotten you into the role you're in now. And I know you're in a fairly new position here, from what I understand. So
Yeah,
congratulations,
thank
by the way.
you.
I think what happens many times for students when they leave school is that they kind of expect to immediately be in the job they want. And,
Mhm.
it takes time to get to that point. And there are lots of different experiences you might have along the way that change what that goal is. So, when you think about your journey so far, Hoda, are there any highlights you can share with us today about kind of how you got started and how it has taken you to where you are today?
I love this question because you can really pinpoint and reflect on the points that really were crucial to where you are today. And it's funny because when we first met, we weren't on the same path. And now we are sort of working with the same sort of like students, post-secondary students. And I'm actually, as you mentioned, transferring into a post-secondary position very soon. And what brings up, whole picture for me is that I always remember being gravitated towards teaching positions. So as early as even elementary school, I remember that I taught our neighbor's daughter, for example, right? And then
Ah,
I went on in high school and in undergrad as well to hold teaching positions. And at the time, obviously, I wouldn't have had much knowledge about coaching, but you could see how that was what I was always gravitated towards. But another piece of that is that I always loved helping people. So that was what I felt like I was called to do. And somewhere that I really was interested to do that at was at a hospital. But I also
oh,
knew
wow.
I didn't want to be a doctor or a nurse. And I was looking into how I can not study as long, but also be able to help people in the way that I wanted to. I found this program, which was to become a radiological technologist, to basically work with X-ray machines and MRIs. And
Oh,
that needed a year of an undergrad study. And that is when I learned that I needed to have backup plans because, we have certain ideas in our mind and we're set on our path. And as you mentioned, it doesn't always happen. So I
right.
was waitlisted, and I realized that for next time around, I don't want to continue with my biology undergrad path because I would have been stuck working in a laboratory, and I knew that I wanted to work with people. I'm a
Right.
people person. So I was always like looking at the things that, I gravitated towards and what I wanted to do. And I stumbled upon recreational therapy as a backup option of radiological technology to again be able to work perhaps in a hospital setting. And I was also looking at getting into the job market as fast as I can because I was involved in the entrepreneurial part of Seneca with you as well,
Yes.
joined Startup Weekend, won that, got invited to a TV show. So like I was,
Oh,
trying these different paths along the way, like saying yes to whatever came up, right? All in the path of wanting to help people, obviously. All had to do with that. And then I ended up going to Seneca for recreational therapy. And that was because they offered 5 different internship positions, right? Like
ah,
it was a very unique situation where I could gain access to job market faster. And as a result of that, I ended up working in hospitals, trauma rehab. I ended up working in retirement homes with different populations. And that's another thing. Like I was trying to experience working with different um, groups of different ages and different settings to see who again I would be more comfortable and it would be the best fit for me to work with. And right out of college, I got 2 job offers from those different internships that I did. However,
wow.
I decided to move back to Dubai, where my family was, and that's where I also grew up. And I first joined like a random, it might seem random, but it was an electric vehicle startup.
Oh,
Again, like very much into the startup area because I'm really interested and I have always been interested in having a lot of variety in my work, right? And I feel like the startup space really allows you to wear a lot of different hats and
big
do
time.
that. And after that, and it was also, I felt like it was helping the environment and eventually
Yes.
people, right? So it all went along the same lines. And then I realized even within that role, I was working with interns within the startup, right? Like helping
Oh,
them develop, like personal development. So I was like, okay, this is a clear sign as I look back, anything that I've been doing, it's all leading towards like personal development of people and humans, especially students.
hmm.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna start my career coaching business because I realized that even when I was tutoring, I was teaching biology to high schoolers or English. I was always, gravitated again towards talking about the big picture. Okay, what are you gonna do after this? What are you gonna do with these skills, these volunteering, experiences? And so I was like, okay, I am obviously called to do this. And I ended up at the same time also uh, exploring working at a family business.
Oh,
So that was spice export business, and uh,
wow.
it was like it sounds very like random, but again, the goal was like this particular spice like really helped with um, you know um, it had been shown to help with mental health, and
Wow.
the goal of the setting up the whole business was to help like compensate farmers better. So again, going
Yeah,
back to,
helping people.
and then I realized, okay, this is also not working out. I need to really focus on one thing, and I need to focus on the thing that brings me most joy. Because as a career coach right now, I realized that I was using a lot of my burnout skills. And there is a difference between a motivating skill and a burnout skill, which not a lot of students are aware of. And burnout skills are basically, things that you're good at, but you don't necessarily enjoy doing them, or it wouldn't energize you at the end of the workday if your workday is mostly composed of those skills, right? Rather than motivating skills or skills that you are good at or you could potentially be good at in the case of students who have not had much experience, and it really energizes you. So like you don't feel depleted at the end of a work day,
That's
right?
interesting. Yeah. I
Yeah.
haven't heard those
And
terms before.
yeah. And funny enough, because I was again in the entrepreneurial space for a while, I was very active on LinkedIn as well. And it was also a way I feel for me to feel connected with people and feel like I'm part of a community because at the time I was living alone in Canada.
Right.
Uh, and that really helped me feel a sense of belonging. And what ended up coming out of that was, one of the people that I was engaging with, called Kristen Sherry, had, came up with this amazing certification for UMAP. It's for career coaching, but now has expanded to, health coaching and different sorts of, there's also grief coaches that you use it. And what's really cool about it is that it doesn't focus on one aspect of a person, but it looks at like, and we call like four pillars of career satisfaction. So you've got the strength, values, skills, and interests, right? So it's not, and that's why when we say, when you might hear, oh, just follow your passion, that might not be the most accurate, advice to give because that's only one pillar of career satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
What about your strength? What about your values, your skills, right? And as I delve much more into this, I realized that like I've also been really intrigued with how people tick and uh, how I can use this information of how they tick to help them into progressing towards a career that would be most fulfilling for them. And hence, here we are.
Wow. That's an
Yeah.
amazing journey, Hoda. And I love asking this question because every journey is so unique. And I think that's so important for students to hear that someone like yourself, for instance, who's always had this deep-rooted desire to help people, has, tried to find that in so many different things. And
Mhm.
sometimes that's what it takes to figure out, what you want to spend your time doing, at least for now, it might change.
Mhm.
And you may do something different later, but I do think there's so much value in trying all these different things, even if you end up not liking it, in your case, maybe with the spice business, you liked it for a bit and then
Mhm.
decided there's something else you want to try. I think sometimes there's a hesitation to jump into something because it's not the perfect thing, but then you miss out on the chance to learn all these unexpected lessons. So thank you so much for sharing the journey. Um, it doesn't sound random to me. It just sounds like, you took the path of open-mindedness really and gave things a
Mhm.
shot. And I think that's really powerful for students, especially who are early in their careers, who may not know about all these different options. So um,
Mhm.
when students do come to you, and I'd
Mhm.
love to hear a bit about your career coaching business as well, so that if there are people interested in watching this, they can reach out to you. Um, what stage of their career are they usually at, or is it all different types of people?
I have admittedly worked with different types of people. However, where I really specialize in and really enjoy working with people is when they're at a transitional stage. So either high schoolers who are moving to go to a post-secondary institute to figure out what they even want to do because there's so much confusion and they're just not clear and they're not confident with how to even make this. They don't know how to make decisions yet, right? And or recent graduates, like they're not sure. Okay, now what do I do with my degree? Like, how can I leverage what I've learned? What can I how can I add to my learning experience? Or even career changers who are looking to pivot from one position to another. So another one of my roles is working with a company that works to help BIPOC individuals bridge that gap for entering the tech industry.
Okay.
And some of them like do not have the tech background, and some of them do, but in a different area. So how do you leverage what you have, and make those big decisions and become more clear? And the main thing I would say is learn about yourself, to then make decisions from there, right? Because we always look on the outside, like what's it like in the job market? Not saying that's not important, it's very important. Or what do others have to say? Like, what are other people's advices, right? However, other people have different values than you, right?
Right.
Things that are important to you could be different from things that are important to those you are seeking advice from. So you
True.
might value, for example, adventure, and someone you're seeking advice from might be valuing stability, right? And how can you, like, make that decision and be fulfilled in your path if you're making decisions based on someone else's values, right?
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And I do think it's a really important conversation to have at those transitional periods, like you're saying, because you've made me think of something here. I think people think of your career journey kind of starting when you graduate post-secondary school.
Mhm.
But really, I mean, it can start so much earlier than that. For some, it starts in high school. For some, well, whatever they pick is that degree is kind of the start. So it is it's really important to put some thought into, what are you interested in? What are you passionate about? And try to learn a bit more about yourself along the way. I think that's really, really valuable that people can reach out to someone like yourself for that support.
And another thing I wanted to add, like a very important aspect, what are your strengths, right? So
Right.
I feel like that's a really important thing that we neglect to look at, because when you're inside a jar, you can't read, what's on the label on the jar, right? So
Oh,
like when you are, for example, very good with coming up with ideas, like ideation is one of your strengths, you might not think that that's actually one of your strengths, because you might think, oh, it comes to me naturally, so every other person might have that as well, right? But no, like your top five strengths, Clifton Strength is one of the assessments that I use, is shown by research that you're literally 1 in 33 million.
whoa, I've never
Okay.
heard that. That's an
So,
unbelievable statistic.
right? Like, let that sink in. So it takes, you are not the same as another person who is like 1 in 33 million. Like, so that must make you feel unique and make you feel
Yeah.
special, and take that confidence of like knowing about yourself and your strength, and bring that when you're talking about yourself during an interview, um, to set yourself apart, because you want to first identify what it is that you are naturally very good at, right? Like the difference between strength and skills, I would say, is that strength are those things that come to you naturally, and skills are those things that you can develop over time, right? So based on your strength, there are certain skills that you can develop so much easier, but it doesn't mean that you cannot develop any skill. It's just that it's better to go in the direction of the current, swim in the direction of the current,
Right.
or, be planted where you will grow the best or flourish the best
Oh, I like
based
that
on,
one. Yeah.
you know, rather than be put in an environment where like your strength wouldn't be as valued or as used, um, as opposed to another environment. So that really helps to, again, start with yourself, understand more about what your strengths are, what your values are, your interests, personality, skills, to then be able to make decisions from there. And obviously the next stage is to look at the job market as well, to see what's out there, where the job market is going, to be able to make those big decisions. But you do need to put these puzzle pieces together, and it takes a bit of introspection, right? Like you can, without even doing any assessments, you can, for example, ask different people, your family or your friends or your classmates, what do you notice that I'm really good at? Like, how was I able to be helpful in the group project that we had together to you? Like, what do you think I brought to the table, right? So really going out and asking these questions to see, are there any patterns that I'm seeing,
Mm.
right? Again, going back to the coming up with different ideas, ideation, like maybe you will see that people are saying, yeah, like you always come up with novel ideas, and I really enjoy that about you. That's why I come to talk with you.
Ah.
So these are ways that you can introspect and reflect and figure out how you can leverage your strength into even speaking about yourself during an interview.
That makes a lot of sense. And I definitely want to come back to something you mentioned about, keeping an eye on where the job market's going in
Mhm.
connection to, figuring out these skills and strengths. And that distinction makes a lot of sense too. I'm glad you touched on that. Um, but one question that came to mind as you were explaining it, and, I'm thinking about doing all this kind of self-exploration is I've had students ask, where do they learn about opportunities? Where can they go to discover what some of their strengths might be or what some of their interests might be? And it's a tricky question, I think, because I think it's by doing things like what you did, where you tried, you know, recreational therapy, working in the family business, working in the hospital. But do you have any guidance on where to find those opportunities, or
Mhm.
does that make sense?
So, where to start basically? So, I guess you asked two questions. One is how to find out what your interests are to begin with, like what sort of places you can go to figure out more about yourself, and then how to connect those with opportunities. So,
Yeah.
one I would suggest a free online thing called Career Explorer, careerexplorer.com.
Okay.
It's a pretty cool, comprehensive test that's free. It takes about 30 minutes, and it will, show up all the different um, career paths that might be a good fit for you.
Oh,
And
wow.
also, like different majors in university or college that you can take that would lead you to that career path. And obviously, it has like a breakdown of your, interests, values, things like that. So it makes a lot of sense. I feel like if
Yeah.
you just, invest 30 minutes of your time to just do that free test, they are paid ones as well that, I'm a huge fan of. However, like that would suffice just as a starting point, right? So
That's so helpful.
all these tests are just starting points, right? They are not end all be all that, okay, it told me that I need to be a random example doctor. So like this is like a GP is the path that I need to take. No,
Right.
these are only to generate ideas for yourself. These are conversation starters.
Uh,
These are where you will have some more ideas to then figure out, okay, like based on what these suggestions are, based on these things I learned about myself, okay, let's do some process of elimination. Let's, pick out our top two or top three. So focusing on our top choices is really important because you don't want to spread yourself too thin either, right?
right.
To start, for example, applying for any and every job out there, right? So you want to focus on like top two or three environments or tasks that would really bring you joy and would help you feel energized at the end of the day. And how you can go about those is, I would say, like, go on job boards and search up like certain skill that you would like to enhance or gain more experience in, and type in like internship, and
Okay.
see if, what would come up, or even in Google, right?
Oh yeah, that's so helpful, Hoda, because I think sometimes students are overwhelmed by how many options they have, and that's such a great starting point. If you don't know, what you might be interested in, or you're curious, what things you haven't heard of might be interesting. Doing something like a quiz is a really cool way to generate ideas, like you said. And then looking at a job board for internship opportunities based on some of those ideas, I think is a really cool way to, set some potential options up. And
Mhm.
thanks. I haven't heard it put that way before, so that's really helpful. Um,
Yeah, pleasure. So it could be either different job titles or different skills, plus an internship, and just see what are the things that are available. And, I'm really grateful and thankful that I was able to do like 4 or 5 different internships, which is not very common in different programs. But I was very intentional about doing that and about getting into the job market as soon as I can. And I guess like
yeah.
one of the things I learned from the entrepreneurship era was like, fail often, fail fast, something like that, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to like try out all these different settings and populations to see like, where I would not do so great at, or where I would really shine. And that way you will find out at least this is something that I don't want to do. And that's also very helpful and valuable information, right?
It is, and for what it's worth, I think you've really found a spot that you do shine. This has been incredibly insightful, and I think people will really appreciate hearing some of these tips and tricks from you, Hoda. So I'm glad you've ended up where you have.
Thank
Um,
you.
and I know we don't
Definitely.
have a ton more of your time, so the last kind of question I wanted to ask, and you sort of touched on it earlier, is trying to pay attention to, where the job opportunities are. I mean, that's definitely an important aspect and something we have to keep in mind. So just, from your experience, have you noticed any upcoming job opportunities or fields that we should maybe keep our eyes on, or that job seekers might want to be aware of?
Mm-hmm. So, you're in the industry and you know how AI has become so big. But I would take a little bit of a different approach, because I would say in my path of trying to find what was needed in the world and what would bring me joy, I was even considering, okay, maybe I should start learning coding or whatnot. And I'm
Right.
like, I did try to, go that path, and I'm like, okay, this is definitely not for me. And something else that I learned recently, shout out to JP Michelle, I believe, is that you don't really need to go with job titles anymore, especially right now that the world is really changing, right? So think about how you want to contribute to the world, right? Like, what is the contribution you want to bring to the table? And yes, we know that like the technology field is booming, but what is it in the technology field? Like, how can you be part of that without necessarily, if it's not your thing,
Yeah.
without necessarily coding, right? Like, there's so many different ways that you can be part of that tech field, doing like, I don't know, design work, or doing things that might be more down your alley, your
Yeah.
skills, your strengths,
100%.
but are not necessarily like having to do with technical aspect of things, right? So again, look at how you want to contribute to the world, and especially, in the tech field, which is huge. And don't only limit yourself to the job titles that are out there. Have informational interviews with people in those industries and talk about yourself and ask about their journeys and find out maybe what other job titles are out there in this industry that is booming that you might have never heard of or considered before, right? This is another way to generate idea because when I do the Career Explorer with students, like we stumble upon like job titles that we had never heard of before, right?
Right.
And that's another thing to really keep the conversations going and keeping that open mind, as you touched upon, to figure out like where you can fit in this world and also really setting yourself up for success, right? So showing up at different events from your school or showing up at different events you might see on Eventbrite, Meetup. Sometimes I would feel, especially as a student, I would go to a lot of events and like I didn't have any idea in mind, like what am I even doing there, right? But like the idea was that every time that I went, like at the end of the night, at the end of the day, when I came back home, I was really glad I did because I always made a valuable connection with someone. Be it a thought, be it an idea, be it, you never know how single word or sentence could really set the trajectory of your career. So yeah.
True. That's so true, Hoda. And I like that you touched on the non-technical side of this. Yeah, world-changing technology. Of course, AI is changing a lot, but I do think that it's so important to recognize you don't have to be a programmer to be part of it, and that there is, I think, a real need for people to focus on the human connections that need to be made, and maybe actually we can all do that a bit more now that, we have something maybe doing a bit more paperwork for us. It is about trying to find a way to connect with each other, and there certainly is non-technical opportunities out there, maybe now more so than ever. So yeah, I just want to thank you again for your time today, for all the insights you shared. We will definitely be trying to raise awareness about the work you're doing so that people who are ready to have these conversations, or maybe not quite ready, but should be having them, do reach out and start this process of, yeah, figuring out, what are their strengths, what are their skills, what are their interests, and where can they add some value, the same way that you've been on that journey. So thanks for sharing your own journey with us and the recommendations you have. It's been, I've learned a lot in this, Hoda, so I'm really glad you came out.
Thank you so much, Imran. Thank you so much again for having me. It's been a real pleasure talking with you.
Awesome. We'll have to have you back. I feel like we're just getting started here. So um, thanks again, and we'll reach out again soon.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.